So a little bit of housekeeping. If you've been here before, welcome back. If you're new to the live, this is Civilized Sessions. This is a regular Thursday night topical discussion. It's not necessarily always a panel, but it's a topical discussion. And for the past 2 weeks, we have been talking to the men. I say the men, like very, very general. We've been talking to men about their feelings, their emotions towards relationships, connection, what they believe to be the positive attributes of a woman, and the like. Okay, so I created the space intentionally for men to come and speak, because I believe that as women, we oftentimes have spaces to speak about similar situations, and men's voices are oftentimes drowned out. And so the space that we opened up was for the guys to come in, as I said, to share their thoughts, feelings, emotions, desires, all of the rest. And they really stepped up. The guys were really open, they were vulnerable, they shared their truth. And it was really beautiful to be on the receiving end and to kind of open the space for that to happen, right? So with that being the case, I'm hoping the people who come through today were some of the people who were on that live discussion, who were able to hear the outpouring from the gentleman. Because the intention for today is for us as women to be able to receive that information that was shared by the gentleman and begin to kind of unpick it, but not from an unpicking of breaking down what they said to interrogate them, but more of an unpicking for us to be able to then integrate what we've learned effectively. Like, how can we be different as a result of what we've heard from the gentleman? So that's kind of what today's session is going to be all about. And I have two lovely panelists today who've come to join and be part of this conversation. Growth convos, exactly, Wazza. Yeah, that's what we're doing over here. We're adding value to the community, right? I've got two lovely guests, but before I get to them, I just want to go through my housekeeping really quickly. So let me just readjust this as well, if I can just do that for a second, guys. So I'm going to go through every session. I go through my members because I like to show love to the people who are showing me love. I'm just about to reset my gift goal, which is non-obligatory, guys. My whole thing is, if you feel like you're getting some value and you feel called to give an offer in, that's absolutely fine, but there is zero obligation for anyone to gift anything. It's literally a case of karma. If you feel like you've been able to receive, then you may feel called to give back. And if you feel like giving back in the way of gifts, that's absolutely lovely. So where's my little dinky dinosaurs? I like the dinosaurs. Let's go for the roses today. Let's go for that. Let's go for lovely. So we have a variation of gift goals for today as well. Hopefully I've done that right. I hope I have. I think I did. So again, give as however you feel that you would like to. All right, so my team people on my team, people have joined and are members of mine are as follows. We have Matt Bikeman, 5 a.m, Quams the Bodyguard, Vibes Only Friends, Aladdin, Sarah Garvey, Alexander, The Food Guy, Jasmine, Red Snapper 291, Thoughts by D, Straubs, Sebastian, Sabrina Shield, 21, Surf 360, Speak for Yourself Sis, and Divine. Thank you to all of my team members. Big love to all of you. And I believe, just as a kind of like setting of the ground rules, as today we're going to have panelists, I will open the floor a little bit later on for people to come in and share anything that they think might contribute to the conversation. For right now, we're sitting with my panelists, and I believe I'd like to open the floor to Afsa to introduce yourself and say a little bit about who you are and perhaps what you'd like to get out of the conversation this evening.
Hi guys, I'm Afsa Rosette. I speak about emotional healing and growth. Usually my audience is more so around women, so it'll be interesting conversation, especially to kind of start to understand the men's perspectives with regard to femininity, intimacy, and women of value. So I'm really excited. I think what I do want to take out from this conversation today is being able to hear other people's perspectives, particularly the men and the women, especially because I'm usually centered around tailoring my content to help women in particular. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So thank you so much for this space.
You're very welcome, my darling. And Empress Lee, introduce yourself.
I'm hoping you can hear me, yeah?
Uh-huh.
Good. Okay. Hi everyone. So I'm Empress Lee. I'm just really like an accountable woman, really. I take a lot of responsibility and I've got a lot of experience in a lot of the topics that we spoke on last week as well. So I'm just here to get a lot more insight, to just learn and grow more, because as I get older, my needs start to change. So like how I view men change as well. So it'll be interesting to see how I feel about that after today.
Amazing. Okay, so where are we at? So if you're currently here, let's share the live. Let's get people in. Let's kind of like get some energy into the room. Let's see. I can see some of the invitations going at the minute. I'm not going to invite anybody up right now, but please don't withdraw your invitation because I will get through to you. What I would like to do first is to kind of introduce as a kind of, what do we call it? Like a review of where we came from last week. I'm going to open the floor to the ladies to give a little bit of insight, and then I will periodically allow people to come up and participate in the conversation. In the meantime, any contributions that you have, feel free to drop them in the chat and we can kind of pick them up as we go along. All right, so as I said, last week, well, the past 2 weeks actually was like a two-parter, yeah? We had the men's edition, like I said, at the top of the live, and the kind of overriding theme for a lot of the gentlemen, yeah, the biggest kind of insight from them was that ladies don't listen. That was the first thing. It was just like, ladies, can you just listen? That was number one. I've literally written them down. So the things were, the men wanted to feel validated. They wanted to be given space. The thing about listening, like I said, specifically, one of the things that was specific about the listening was that they felt that sometimes even when we listen, we misinterpret what they have said. And then we either internalize it and make it about us, or we completely shift the narrative and then we end up talking about something else. So they felt like they weren't being heard in that respect. And then another thing that came up was an inability on our part as women to hold space for our men. So being a safe space specifically for the men that we experience in our lives. So with those pieces of information, ladies, are there any particular ones of those that you would kind of like to tap into first? And what my more specific question is, if we can get personal with you ladies, because this is an opportunity for us to be, I guess, representations of and examples of the accountability that we as women kind of need to demonstrate a little bit more. If you want to maybe talk about something specific to yourself where maybe you haven't done these things or you're learning to do them a little bit differently, what would you like to touch on? Afsa, let's go to you first. Oh, she's on pause. Afsa?
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you, darling.
Okay. So when you mentioned listening, I felt triggered, slightly triggered, because I thought, oh, this is one that I tend to always get. That we don't listen. In fact, I was having a conversation with one of my male friends the other day, and he said, Afsa, the issue is you don't listen. And I thought, but I am listening. But then I realized that this is something that I for one, have to start doing a lot more of. And it is just understanding that as men and women, sometimes we do have different communication styles. We're more, I guess, emotional. I guess the general consensus is that females are more emotional in their communication and in terms of how they're receiving communication. And some men are a little bit more logical. But then for me, for one, I feel like sometimes I'm quite logical, and then I might meet a man that is more emotional. And there's that battle of communication styles where I feel like they feel like I'm not understanding them, and vice versa, really. So I guess I just need to learn to listen, and that sometimes means that I have to just pause, maybe walk away and reflect in, and that's something that I really struggle with. And I guess to go into, since we're trying to get personal, my past relationships, that was the case. I'd say a lot of times it was, absolutely, you don't listen. And it's because I guess at the time I thought my emotions held precedent. I felt like what I was experiencing was, no, this is important to me, when really they're also just as important for my significant other. And a lot of times we're so focused on this is hurting me and not enough of how is this making you feel? And it's all a work in progress. I mean, I'm not in a relationship now, but that doesn't mean that I can't learn to do this with my male friends, you know? So that's my take on it.
Ooh, there's a few things that I want to. In fact, let me get into this before I come to you, Empress Lee. So first of all, I have to thank you for sharing that, because again, being vulnerable and taking accountability is not easy for a lot of us. Do you know what I mean? So to come on an open platform and kind of effectively say, like, I recognize what I misstepped, where I could have done things differently. I think that's a beautiful thing, and that is what this space is about. But I still want to like thank you for being that kind of like example of that behavior. And you said, you know, you wanted to kind of learn to listen more, and I hear it, but I'm going to kind of like challenge you a little bit. Yeah. Because as women, we can say, oh yeah, I heard the guys, they say that we need to listen more. But what does that actually look like? How can we learn to actively listen a little bit more? Do you have any insight on perhaps a way that could look in a tangible way?
Yeah, because a lot of times, right, and this is one of the ways I feel like I tend to challenge men when they tell me I have to listen. I'm like, I am listening. I just don't agree. So I think when a man is telling me to listen, one of the ways in which I feel like I'll be more receptive to listening is more so being clear in your communication, right? So perhaps
On whose
from
part?
the man's part, but then that means maybe I have to then ask further questions, because sometimes there's no, I wouldn't say it's not lack of empathy, but it's more so just being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes and, okay, I see where they're coming from, rather than just assuming it's from a bad place. So listening is more so just trying to understand the depth of what they're saying, because sometimes people are not the best at articulating their emotions, and in understanding that some men are not the most emotionally vulnerable. So it takes a lot for them to be able to share, and I think it takes a level of emotional intelligence to be able to read between the read between the lines, in terms of, okay, what are they trying to say here, or could this have affected him? But because he's a man, I understand that sometimes vulnerability is something that is quite foreign, and they don't want to do. They don't want to come across passive. They don't want to come across too vulnerable or too somewhat quote unquote submissive. But that's another whole conversation of the day. But in understanding this, we can better listen to understand them, rather than just being able to just have a comeback.
Whew. Whoa. That last bit there, rather than listening to have a comeback. I can't lie. I have been very, very guilty of that in my past days. I have been very, very guilty of that. And I think what you were saying about listening, sometimes what you said, because one point has just come to mind as you were talking about that. Dwayne last week said, don't invalidate my feelings. Even if what I'm saying feels like it doesn't make sense to you, this is my situation. This is my feeling and my experience. So don't invalidate it. So to touch on your point, Afsa, I think that sometimes if a guy has expressed a particular thought, feeling, opinion, whatever the case, like you said, so seek clarity. I think that is one of the effective parts of communication that a lot of the time we miss. Like, we think that we've heard something and we just get it, but we're interpreting it from our own perspective, our own experience, and we might be receiving that message completely wrong. Do you know what I mean? So to your point, I think, yeah, asking questions. Well, what do you mean? What is it that can you expand on that? Like, I didn't quite understand where you were going when you said X. Do you know what I mean? Like, asking those clarifying questions can really help to alleviate a lot of the tension that we might experience in those types of situations sometimes. So thank you for that. Right. Empress Lee, what's your contributions to what's been said so far on anything that you've picked up from the gentleman, or maybe what we've said already thus far?
Yeah, so for me, as for those, like I said very beautifully, but I think for me, the listening, I tend to try to hear rather than listen, because
What does that mean for you?
It means that regardless of however the communication is, the words that are being said are the words that are being said, isn't it? So I'll give you an example. A person, and everything with me is quite personal. So, my partner, my previous partner, um, he made a statement like, what do I? No, I was complaining about not seeing him and stuff, and it was like, well, what? You didn't ask me what I need, and I heard.
Sorry, you said that to him.
He said that to me. He said, "What do I need?" So I was literally like, like I want to see you, whatever. And it was just like, well, what do I need? And I thought, what? I didn't even think about that. I really didn't think about that. So these are things that I've learned, and through experiences, and you lose people, and you have to try to understand that you have to give men space to hear what they're saying, because they don't stutter. They actually speak very clearly and concise, but we get muffled into the listening. We listen to what we focus the negative, and the things that don't make us feel good. But we hear they're literally telling us everything. Like I've had a partner say to me, can you make sure I've got a red towel? And I've literally done it because that's something that you want. As small as it is, I'm hearing you, innit?
I hear that.
It's very effective to hear when men are speaking.
It's kind of like listen and not overcomplicate it. Yeah, I hear that. And what you just said has actually been reflected in the comments. Matt has just said, reading between the lines, ladies complicate when men are simple. And then, who was it? Wazza also said, I saw it before, he said, women do listen, but I found they listen and internalize and make it about them. Or they listen, but they take longer to reciprocate that they have understood what you have said. I hear that, Wazza. What do you think about that, Empressly?
What's that? Sorry.
They were saying that effectively women listen, but then they internalize it and they make it about themselves, which is what some of the gentlemen from the previous panel had said. So rather than focusing on like, okay, we do this and we do that and etc., I want to kind of like look at this from the perspective of, if we are the type of woman who receives information and perhaps internalizes it and makes it about us, what would you guys suggest as ways that we could do that differently? How can we shift our behavior so we're not doing that? Afsa, you've unmuted. What do you want to say?
Like I said, I would have combined. Can you guys hear me?
We can, but it's a little. Are you outside, babes?
Yeah, I'll be inside in like 5 minutes. But I said you can combine. I'd combine the two. Like I said, I'd combine the hearing or the listening with the safe space, because like I said, no matter what's going on with you emotionally, okay, I'll just leave it like this. If you don't drive with emotion, your life is simple. If you don't drive with it, so I'm not saying don't have your emotions, as because you have emotions, right? But don't let it be the drive. So let that man's peace be the drive, innit? So regardless of whatever's going on, if you can maintain peace for that man, then we're doing okay. But until you can always maintain peace for that man, regardless of the situation or the communication, man, I'm telling you, because they're going to only soften back to what it is that they're given. You know,
okay, heard. Yeah, Afsa, go, and then I'm going to chime in with a little insight of my own.
Yeah, I think for me, I feel like it boils down to two things. One of them being direct communication and overthinking. So sometimes as women, I feel like we're not really direct. So when it comes to, I might say, I feel very overwhelmed. Instead of I need support with this. You know, so a man might not understand. We're speaking different languages, right? And then we're expecting him to understand, or your partner or your friend or whatever to understand, when we just need to be direct. And I think I always see it like this: if you were in the workplace and you're communicating with your stakeholders, you're not going to tell them, I feel very overwhelmed. You're going to tell them, I'd like some support. It's just delegating. And I think this is where, as women, we get frustrated because we feel like the men don't understand us because we're not directing our communication. And then in addition to that, the overthinking, where you're assuming the worst, when if we actually try and think there's no negative intent to this, our assumptions lead to overthinking, which end up creating miscommunication as a result of our own. It could be trauma, it could just be past experiences that haven't gone that well. And then you're overthinking the worst case scenario. And then this is where the miscommunication or the communication barriers where men don't feel like they're being heard.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel like we can kind of like improve direct communication and leave the overthinking.
Direct communication and leave the overthinking. Okay. No, I really like that because I feel like I've definitely been somebody, definitely not so much now. Right about now, my communication is probably as direct as you could possibly receive it. Yeah. But I think a lot of women do struggle with, literally, we spoke about this on yesterday's live. Every Wednesday I do a Wellbeing Wednesday, and literally yesterday's topic was finding your voice. And I think for a lot of us as women, the reason why we struggle with that direct communication and finding and using our voice is for various reasons. But I think the primary ones are for fear, and also because we're not being honest. Yeah, we haven't even figured out what it is. Like you said, after we haven't actually been very clear about what you're just like, oh, I'm just frustrated, I'm just annoyed. Okay, but about what? Have you actually dug deep to figure out what exactly is the frustration? What exactly is the cause of you feeling this particular way? And because we're not in the practice of being honest with self, yeah, if we don't know what it is, how can we then verbalize it to the person that we're in romantic relationship with? Do you know what I mean? So I think there's an element of us not being honest and not being clear. And I think there's also an element of fear as well, because I think a lot of women have like anxious attachment styles. Yeah. A lot of us have particular traumas that might be, for example, like abandonment or rejection. And I think from that space, we're scared to speak up about whatever it is that we're thinking or feeling or our desires, because we might feel like they're going to leave. It's going to, you know, create an issue that because we're also like conflict avoidant, a lot of women as well. Although there's a lot of you that love to get in a mix up as well. So let me just caveat that really quickly. But there are some women who are fearful of that kind of conflict and that type of interaction. And I think that also contributes to not being able to find voice and being able to express what it is that we're feeling. That being said, it's not an excuse. Again, we're talking about solutions here. So if you believe yourself to be that type of woman, I guess this is a time for you to consider, okay, wow, okay, so if I'm someone who doesn't really use my voice effectively, what can I be doing to find that? How can I be honest? How can I tell my truth? How can I be assertive? Because I think when we're talking about femininity, for example, like a lot of us fall into our aggression. Yeah. And we just want to tell people this and that, but it's the truth. And we say things in a way that isn't effective. It's not going to land. Yeah. And we just feel like because it's the truth, I've said it and that's it. And it's like, no. I think we can benefit from finding our place of assertion, which is saying your needs, but in ways that are going to land with the person that you're communicating with. So that's a kind of like little insight that I have on that. Does anyone want to kind of expand on what I said before I move on, ladies? Give me a 1 in the chat if what I just said resonated with anybody. Just give me a 1 if yes, girl, you're talking sense. And expand on this if you got anything to say on that.
You're definitely talking sense. The fear aspect, I think, tends to guide a lot of both men and women's decisions or lack of decisions out of fear that you're going to be left. But then one thing that I find that will really help is if women chose to do it in the spaces that they feel, even if you challenge yourself to do it once a day. And in fact, I was having a conversation with a male friend about this. And surprisingly, this particular male friend, he's actually not direct. So we often think conflict avoiders or those avoiders, those that are like people pleasers that avoid conflicts entirely tend to be women. But I do find that there are men out there that also don't avoid conflict entirely. So one of the things I told him to also do is challenge yourself. Like, do at least try and mention something very direct.
I don't want to cut you. I really don't, but I'm going to, only because I hear you and I agree. Let me just say that I agree totally with what you're saying. However, personally, for the benefit of this live, I really want to focus on the ladies. I really want to focus on what we need to do. So I hear you, and I'm like, it's a thing, sis. Like, I'm not cutting you. I'm not, I feel like a Kanye moment, and I'm gonna let you finish. However, I really just do want to focus on what are we doing? How can we take this information and change it around?
Yeah, it's simply that, just being more direct in our communication. Yeah, the same applies, just being direct. If something bothers you, be direct and have empathy in understanding that is this coming from a negative place? How can I kind of flip this into, instead of thinking it's an attack, rather than thinking maybe we're doing it, there's some place, where is this coming from? Could they really be hurting? What are some things that I can try and adopt and change in the ways that communication hasn't served me in the past? How can I do it better this time? And I think that will help much more.
Absolutely. Right, Empress Lee, I'm going to come to you. I'm just going to do a quick comment check before I do that. Shout out everyone who's giving me ones in the chat to let me know that the conversation is resonating. I love that. We're at 2K, guys. If you're enjoying the conversation, please continue to like, share with anybody that you think might benefit from being here today and being involved in this conversation. D Nice says, a lot of people aren't emotionally mature in relationships, and that's a big issue. 1000% agree with that. So D Nice, how do we switch that around? How do you as an individual work on your emotional intelligence? What are some of the practices that you have experienced? If you want to come up and share that, drop an invitation and I'll let you come up and you can talk about that if you wish to. D Nice also says delivery is important. LB, hello, welcome to the conversation, says be understanding but not to the point where you are compromising yourself. Absolutely. We spoke about barriers on Wellbeing Wednesday last week. Well, not barriers, boundaries. And I think not compromising your position is really a reflection of somebody who's boundaried. And I think that ties into what Afsa was saying about being direct. Yeah, you're not going to be able to set your boundaries and stand on your square if your communication is wishy-washy. Your boundaries are likely to be violated if you're not direct in the way that you're communicating and saying, this is what it is, this is what I would like it to be, and these are the consequences should said kind of like regulations not be adhered to. So yeah, I absolutely hear that completely. I think trying to simplify the complexities of our thoughts and feelings combined. Yeah, I think that's kind of like what Afsa was saying before, like, don't make assumptions. And if something is unclear, ask questions. Like in any other situation, we would do that. If you were in, I don't know, when you're studying, if something is unclear, you say to the professor, the teacher, whatever, I'm not really sure, can you expand on it? You will always ask questions when you're unclear on something. And yet sometimes in relationships, you're not sure of what your partner says. And yet the logic of asking a question to find out evades a lot of us. And that's brazy to me, I'm not gonna lie. But yes, just making things a bit simple, a little bit more streamlined, 100%. Welcome. Also, it's communication styles, though. Yes, because there are people who communicate in different ways. Last week, we had a therapist in training who spoke about, he broke it down as rhinos and hedgehogs. I mean, I'm sure there's multiple, communication styles and references to ways people communicate and all of this. But Thoughts by D, if you haven't followed him, follow him. He broke it down into rhino and hedgehog. And he kind of had said that in certain relationships, some people can be the rhino, the person who just wants to go straight in. Like, there's a problem, I want to fix it, let's get it done, I need answers. And then the hedgehog is the type of person who may be a little bit more withdrawn, who might take a little bit more time to kind of want to approach a situation. And that kind of reaction then kind of triggers the rhino because they're withdrawing, but the rhino's like, no, come on, let's get it done. And then it kind of can perpetuate a little bit of a stickiness with the communication. So yeah, definitely communication styles impact how we interact with one another. Absolutely. Okay, so that's I think leaning into curiosity and not assumptions is key. After, do you want to expand on that? Because I agree with you, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we assume negative intent. And I think this is where we kind of go wrong. And then the overthinking comes. Again, 100% guilty of this in the past. So I think in being curious, we ask more questions, which will again naturally allow us to get clarity and an understanding where it's coming from. And it also allows the guys to be able to get better at expressing how they feel, which in turn just helps us all be able to actually understand each other.
Absolutely, because I think that ties into safety, doesn't it, really? So on that note, I just want to ask Empress Lee, what is your concept of being a safe person for your significant other? Sure.
Yeah. First of all, it's like being a safe person for myself.
Glad you said that. Go on.
Because I've been listening. I've just been waiting to just have an input. But yeah, it all starts with me. because I have to be safe within myself in order to feel for anyone to be safe around me, to be fair. And there has to be a level of peace within myself, first of all. So what I was going to input is that how I have to understand, I have to sometimes, as women, we have to stop and reflect and understand why we're even in the relationships that we're in with these men. The circumstance, the state of mind that we was in at the time we started and where we are now. You understand? A lot of thinking.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's and with that comes the peace, because once you understand where you are at and why you're there, even if it's like an emotional state, once you're aware and you understand that, it can literally heighten the relationship because of your awareness.
Absolutely. And as an expansion of that, what you said about it starting with self, I really feel like as women, a lot of the times we're not in our self practice. Yeah. I think as people, but we're speaking about women, so I'm going to keep it about women. I think we're not in our personal practice a lot of the time. And so where we're not working on what it means for us to be safe, what safety looks like for us, as you said, it's going to be impossible. Let me not even say impossible. I don't want to use that word. It's going to be more challenging for us to be able to create that safe space for another person because we haven't even figured out what that looks like for us. Yeah. And I think part of the ways that women can do that, I'm a strong advocate for solitude. Yeah. Taking time. And when I say solitude, it doesn't mean if you're with somebody, you now have to break up with them and take like months out on your own. That's not necessarily what I mean. But finding time to be with self, yeah, finding time to really figure out what are my needs, what are the things that when I'm feeling unsafe, what is it that I actually require to shift that energy within me, and how can I give that to me before I start to seek it from anybody else? And I think when we're in practices like that, it then enables us when we notice somebody else is like a little bit off, or they've expressed a particular emotion, or they're having a particular outpouring, we can then kind of be that comfort. Do you know what I mean? We can be that comfort for them. But if we're not working to providing comfort and safety for self, that's why I think a lot of us find it challenging to do it for other people. Absolutely. Is there anybody who kind of already has a idea of what that safety is? Can I go that far? Asa, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, so when you say safety, can I also add safety with regards to making, if I guess, men feel safe? So a lot of times, sometimes as women, they can come across confrontational, as in we can come across confrontational. So I think in creating safety, it's about just understand, even if reiterating what the person's feeling. So if a man tells you he's feeling X, Y, or Z,
Yeah.
reiterate and say, it sounds like you're feeling X, Y, or Z. It allows you to firstly get clarity in how they're feeling, and also make them feel like I'm being understood here. It creates a safe space so that it's not very confrontational, rather than, no, that's not how I feel like you're thinking. It's more so, let me know. Like, it's again that leaning into curiosity again.
Absolutely. I love that. All right, so I'm gonna talk for we've got a few people in the chat that I'm gonna definitely come to. Just as a reference point, all the things that we're kind of talking about, if you've ever watched my lives before, if you've been on wellbeing, like I'm a big nerd, like I read a lot of books, so you'll always hear me referencing something that I've read, yeah, all the time. And get your pens out and jot it down in your phone, guys. There's a guy called Derek Gaunt, and he's written a book called, it's called Ego, Authority and Failure, that I read. And he is a hostage negotiator, this guy, right? And this book is kind of all about dealing with relationships and people as if you were a hostage negotiator. Now, I know that sounds wild, but walk with me for a second. Because effectively what he's saying is what you guys are saying, but I'm just putting it out. So if anybody wants to kind of deepen their insight into these types of things, this is a point of reference that you could explore. So he effectively says that when you're in communication with a person, imagine you're a hostage negotiator, yeah? Someone is holding hostages, or perhaps somebody is trying to harm themselves in a particular way. I just enjoy listening to men speak facts. But in that listening, though, these are some of the skills that can help us with that listening process, though. So, for example, he says things like having empathy, which we've sort of spoken about, which is not thinking about the situation from your perspective. Yeah, empathy is all about getting into the mind and the emotions of the other person. If I were them and having lived their experience, having like, you know, their worldview, etc., what would that look like? What would that feel like? That I feel like that's very challenging to do because we're coming in with ourself. We're bringing outings into the situation, and bro, it's not about you. So he says the first thing is really try to be empathetic. Another thing that he talks about is like slowing down, yeah? Because you know when we talked about before, like the rhino who just wants to charge in, you just want answers, you want to fix something now. And sometimes women in our energy, we can be a little bit gung-ho. Sometimes we just have to slow. Again, feminine. One of the characteristics, the energies of femininity is slowness, stillness, calm. And I don't know that we're exercising that as much as we can. So this is another thing. And he also talks about avoiding absolutes. I'm very guilty of this. I'm that person who would be like, it's a yes or no answer though. Can you just, it's yes or no. I'm very guilty of that. And I learned in this book that actually those can be quite problematic. So he's saying like yes or no questions, and asking why can also be, it can put people on the defensive. So that's maybe something that we can look at. And then like the standard thing of using affirmative language, this can also kind of encourage somebody to feel safe. So rather than saying things like, well, why don't you, and you never, and like you making it about the other person as opposed to, okay, yes, I hear you. I feel like this. Could we? And really kind of open up space for solutions. I don't know that as people, but as women, again, I don't know that we do this as often as we can. So I just wanted to kind of drop that little nugget into the book. Again, was, and these are insights that we all already kind of know intuitively, I think. But again, if you want a book for reference, Derek Gaunt, Ego, Authority, Failure is the book. Right, quick comment checks, and then I am going to bring people up, and then I'm going to allow my ladies to respond to the people who come up and talk with us. So Snell says silencing the ego, putting yourself in someone else's shoes, absolutely. Afsa said, yes, sometimes let that person fully express themselves. Yeah, because not every day chiming and cutting in and interrupting. Slow down. I'm an ADHD girly, yeah, so I've struggled with the impulse to want to say stuff and interject. So it's been a work for me. So when we're having these conversations, I don't want anybody to feel as if I'm sitting on here from a soapbox, like I know all the things. I'm speaking on this and I open the space because this is something I myself am actively working through. And I feel like a lot of us are. And that's why coming together to kind of share where we're at, the things that we're not necessarily doing as well as we would like to, I think just kind of having the conversation lets us know that we're all working on ourselves in particular ways. It's not always easy to put yourself in someone else's shoes if you haven't experienced it, but you can imagine a similar question. Yes, agreed. So, okay, yep. Affirmative language is being mindful, precisely, not just running off at the mouth, slow down, respond rather than react. Yeah. What's it called? It's an acronym. An acronym that I really like is WAIT, WAIT, and that stands for why am I talking? So before you open your mouth, think, wait, why am I talking? What am I about to contribute to this conversation? Is it going to be effective? Am I providing a solution? Am I moving us forward? Or am I just running my mouth for the sake of running my mouth? Things to consider. Neutral language instead of sounding judgmental. Absolutely. Thank you, Afsar. Ego, Authority, Failure. Yep, that's the book. Me Too with ADHD. Come on, Neurospicy Gang, and having to control how I respond. Exactly. We can be quite reactive. Yeah. So it takes us a little more effort to be responsive as opposed to being reactive. Thank you for sharing the live. Okay. So I have one person that I'm going to bring up. D-Nice, and ladies, I'm allow you to what's the word I'm looking for? Quiz her. D-Nice, hello, welcome to the conversation.
Hello. Yes, thanks for bringing me up, sis. This is a good live, so I'll stop here and I can't move, so I might as well come in the box.
Thank you, my darling. what would you? There was a particular point where I saw that you chimed in. What was the contribution that you wanted to kind of give today? What was you responding to?
I think at this point, I just because you've covered so many things, I'm just gonna listen for now, and if there's something I can interject in, because I've said so much in the comments, I don't know which one to actually, yeah. So I'll just listen for now, and then we'll interject, or if it's something direct.
No problem. Absolutely. You can stay with us for a minute. I will be switching guests out though. So I'm going to keep my panel. I have to leave us at the minute. So thank you for joining Afsa. If you haven't already followed Afsa, please go and give her a follow. Check out her content. If it's things that vibe with you, absolutely follow her. Tap in. She's an amazing person to follow. Amazing content.
So what I'm gonna add is this now, because
Can I give 1 second, because I think Afsa just wants to say something before she drops. Is that okay?
go on.
No, I was just going to say thank you so much for this space. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I've got to go. But I'm sure we'll catch up soon, guys. Have a lovely evening. Bye.
Take care. See you later.
Hi, Afsa.
So I'm just gonna mute everyone for a second. And I wanted to ask, in this conversation, obviously we've spoken about having empathy, we've spoken about listening, we've spoken about all the ways that we can kind of be different to kind of support our men. I think Lee, you were saying, I just want to like be his peace. If we kind of draw that into like intimacy and connection and tie it into a little bit of like femininity, what does that kind of look like for you as a woman? What are some of the learnings that you've had?
A lot of the learns I've had is a lot of reasoning. We're saying like, what does it look like? It's just having a space where my men can just speak without me saying anything. Just having, I can't explain it. It's just like having a space, like just like what I said before. Because I'm safe within myself. I feel like I just create that ambiance, for
Let me
the men around.
Let me interject a little bit.
Please.
You feel like you're a very safe woman, and I believe you, sis, because we've had conversations. For women who may not feel necessarily that they are that safe space within themselves, what kind of suggestions or offerings could you provide to building that? Because you feel like you're there. Yeah, you feel like you've done that work and you can offer that safe space to someone because you've got it for you. How have you done that? Share that with the ladies.
I've literally addressed and unpicked every relationship that I've had, the things that I've contributed, the effects that it's had, and vice versa. I've also really gone into understanding how I've made people feel in situations, and also vice versa. So it's just a lot of self growth. You've got to really go back into being with people. Isn't just like, oh, I met this person and I was attracted to them and then we were in a relationship. It's like, no, it's a lot deeper than that. And you have to kind of unpick that in order to be able to have tolerance and discernment and things like that, to be able to hear things that men say are not the same. You've already looked at your life and seen where that went wrong. So you've got to kind of do that for yourself before you can do that for anyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so what I'm hearing from what you said there is effectively being reflective and taking accountability. That's what I've heard. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, man. Because what you don't do is you don't go into a situation and repeat the same behavior. Because as we know, you keep doing the same thing, you get the same results. So where does it change? How does it change? You got to look at yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got the winning introvert who said in the comments, can I ask a question as a dude? Absolutely. Come on, you're here now, my friend. What would you like to ask us ladies as a dude? Snails, is it a pen to paper kind of or mental work? Oh, we'll get to that one in a second. Okay, no, go on. Unmute yourself, darling. You can go.
I wanted to ask, because you mentioned about being his peace. I wanted to ask, what does that mean to you guys?
Ooh, what does being his peace mean? D-Nice, do you want to answer this? Have you got an answer? Don't know if she got an answer.
Do you know what? I am the wild card here because I am not a his piece, I'm a her piece. So It's a feminine and feminine thing, so that's even more emotional.
Oh wow, okay, fair.
Yeah,
Say no more.
that's why I'm here, because it's that femininity thing in it, so it's more of a clash of emotions.
I feel you. Then listen, we'd have to have a whole other conversation about that too.
About that, yeah. So I can't answer him. Maybe
Right, okay, so let's keep it context because it's an inclusive space. The space is inclusive. So for your partner, then for your person, how would you create peace for your person?
You know what? I already think, I'm not going to say a thing. I'm going to take the step and say, I know I'm a safe space. I literally know I'm a safe space. I've always been a safe space in my relationships. And how do you create that though? I don't even know how you create that.
Think about it.
I feel like nurturers are naturally a safe space, and I'm a nurturer.
Okay. But again, like I feel like when the question that's being asked, I feel like we want specifics. Because if we just say I'm a nurturer,
Yeah.
okay, what specifically makes you? What are the qualities? What are the characteristics that make you a nurturing individual to provide that safety for another person?
Well, for instance, being a good listener, being open, being honest with your own feelings and emotions. The specifics are killing me.
No, it's fine. Let's stick a pin, have a think about it. If you want to unmute, we'll come back to you in a little while. Yeah? Is that okay?
Yeah. Reason is going to give an example.
Reason is going to give an example. Come on, reasoning. Come through with the examples.
I can only give like personal examples. But for me, like as a specific example, it's all when a man is in his worst state, like for example, like he's had the worst day, yeah, and you particularly might not have had the greatest day either. You know, putting that man, his feelings and where he's at before your own, kind of like the peace, isn't it? It's a peace for him because, to be fair, days down the line when he actually understands what you was going through on that day and the sacrifice you made for yourself, for him, you understand, it has its rewards. So, yeah, I believe that it's not about igniting the fire that's already blazing.
1 second, D. Can we let reasoning finish the thought and then we can come in a second?
I'm just saying you can't. It's not good to ignite the fire that's already blazing. You're there to out that fire by any means necessary. So I feel like that for me, that's how I've used the piece. You know, even when men are not silly, they know what they're doing. But when you don't highlight their wrongs, you know, that's peace. Because a man who knows what he's doing wrong, you doesn't need you to tell him. These things for me are peace. Create a long-term good community because it makes them accountable. I don't have to do that.
Okay, I hear that.
So yeah, being very silent.
I
don't speak much. Silence. I don't speak much about what's going wrong.
Also, she's more of a submissive.
Yeah, when it comes to the
submissive character, you're more submissive, and I suppose it depends on your character and your personality as well, isn't it?
It does. Okay, so give me a moment. Let me address this really quickly. I just want to make sure that I'm getting clear. So, Empress Lee, are you saying effectively then? So, learning to receive, and be silent, and process, is that kind of, and then like taking an action based on the processing of what's been received? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and if some people class it as submission, then it just think about what that does for you when you actually just take a minute, because there's two people here, not just yourself. There's two sets of emotions, two sets of feelings, two sets of intelligence. Come on, man. There's two sets of everything.
Two sets of everything.
You know, you have to almost treat your men.
All right, so I'm
like your child. You have.
Oh, we're getting a bit of breakup here, babes. Right, so my kind of response to this is that a way for you to be your person's peace, I personally feel like, is to literally find out what their wants and needs are, isn't it? Like, because everybody peace is going to look different to different people. Do you see what I mean? I'll give myself as an example, yeah? So I'm a acts of service kind of girl. And whether you believe in love languages, the 5 that are kind of popular, kind of known, everybody has a love language. Everybody has a way that they like their people around them to show them that they're loved, that they're cared for, that they're respected. Like, everybody has a way that they like to receive that affection and that care, right? And I think for me, the best way to bring peace to your person is just to find that out. Find out what it is that allows them to have that woo-saw moment. Like for me, like I said, I'm an acts of service kind of girl. Like my partner helping me to have peace is if I've got a bag of things, again, I'm ADHD girly and I've got things happening all the time, brain's going, da, 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 da. So him bringing me peace, it'd be like, babes, what do you need? Can I take this? Who do you need to talk to? Who can I get on the phone to? And that can bring me down in certain moments. And then I just feel like, oh, okay, I can breathe a little bit. So yeah, I think for me personally, recognizing that peace means different things to different people, and really just having that communication with your person to understand what is it about you. Sorry, what are the ways that they need loving, and how can I offer that to you? That would be in Winning Introvert. Does that sound like a way that could potentially offer peace to a man as a man? Does that sound like something that could work?
Yeah, no, thank you all for your examples. It all makes sense, and I get that you all have different ways of doing things, so I appreciate the different perspectives.
Yeah.
And I think,
As you're here, can I ask you a
speak to all
question?
men.
Oh, sorry, say that again.
Sure.
Babes, it's fine. You can keep the mic open. It's fine.
Did someone say they wanted to ask me a question?
Yeah, it was me. I wanted to say, so we've kind of given our perspectives of what we feel like it is to offer you guys peace. But as a man who is here, what does peace look like for you? How could we, if you and I were together, Winning Introvert, how could I be your peace? How could I offer peace to you? Thank you, Julieta, for the roses.
That's a question.
It is a question. You're
So
right.
on the one hand, I don't think that is something that someone else can give you. But what I would love is for someone to steer me in the right direction if they notice that I'm moving in a way that's unhealthy or not my best. You know, if I'm thinking in a way that's unhealthy, or if I'm just moving mad, I want her to be able to be like, you know, babes, this is not the best move, or like you could be doing things that are more beneficial. I think helping me to get there rather than putting the responsibility for my piece on her, if that makes sense.
Okay. So what I heard from that is like you would like somebody to guide you in a particular direction and not necessarily lead you that way. Because personally, I feel like there's a difference. I feel like leading is a more masculine approach, and I think guidance is a more feminine approach. And what I'm hearing from you is that what you would benefit from is if your partner recognizes that your behavior is off, that your actions are off, that anything is kind of shifted in you, that they can kind of guide you back to you. So not even guiding you back to her, it's guiding you back to you, so then you can pattern and move forward. That's what I'm hearing. Have I heard that correctly?
Guiding you back to you is just a more fire way of saying it. I like that.
I mean, I'm just a fire kind of girly, babes. I'm a fire kind of girl. But I'm glad that was the message. So, all right, let me just do a quick comment check because I love that you guys are blowing up the comments. So let's do a quick blitz. I can't believe it's already 9:30, guys. We've done the hour. It's crazy. I feel like we might have to carry on this conversation again next week. Okay, what do we have? Okay, thank you. Thank you for the team members joining. Mwah, big up yourself. Thank you for the roses. ST says, ST, what are you challenging it? You have to come on next week, ST. That is, if their love language is compatible with your personality. Rox, I saw a comment from Rox. I really want to touch on that before we go. I feel a bit cheeky. Okay, that's my mod. Shout out my mod squad. You can't give someone peace or be okay. That was I'm coming to you, Rox. Don't worry. Love that open for directions and constructive criticism. Yes, because I feel like communication is a two-way street as well. Yeah, I think there is even Richard, I think there's a responsibility on us for delivering messages and information. And I think there's also, when you're the recipient, there's the responsibility on you as well. I think this is what Afsa and what Empress Lee was touching on before is, let's not misconstrue. Let's not internalize. Let's not change it around. Let's not remix. Yeah, don't try dashing next ingredients and one mix up the thing. Let's take it for what it was and keep it there. So there's that. What else have we got here? Again, thank you for the joining of the team. Richard said, that's fine, Richard. Thank you for being here. Love how you hold and direct the convo, Civilized. Thank you very much. I appreciate that a lot. Feel free to come back. This is the type of energy that I like to create in my rooms, and you guys are really contributing to that. So thank you so much. Thank you for my panelists, because again, keeping the vibes high. Love the Jamaican vibes. Thank you so much. Excellent. All right, so that's the comment check done. So I want to go back to Rox. Rox said, I'm going to paraphrase because I don't know if I can get back to it quick enough, and I am about to kind of close out in a little while. But I feel like, in fact, Rox, are you still here? Do you want to come up? Do you want to come up and say what you said? Come on, say it with your chest. Is she here? If you're here, Rox, I want you to come up and say this, because we've got a few minutes that I can kind of do this. But effectively what she was saying is, why are we working towards being somebody's peace? Oh, here she is. Come on, baby girl.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, people them. Yeah, so I've been listening and I think you've all got so much to contribute and it's amazing. But I keep hearing that like be someone's peace thing, and I tend to disagree because
Is it triggering you?
yeah, no, it's true. I'm triggered. No, 100%. But I'm triggered because
She's owning it, guys. She said I'm triggered. She's owned it.
no, I'm triggered because I've been in that space, and I feel like you can't be someone's peace if they're not aware of what peacefulness is for them or inside of them. And so you could be trying the hardest to do all of these things for this person, give them this safe space to talk, allow them to communicate, listen to what they're saying. But if internally they're not peaceful, you're not creating peace for them. And so like, I say it from a triggered space for me, knowing that there have been times where I've not been peaceful within myself, and it don't matter what a person does, it's not gonna kind of ground me or make me feel safe or make me feel stable, because I'm not aware of what emotionally is causing me the distress. So that's the only reason why I said, like, why are we always trying to be someone's peace rather than supporting a peaceful environment and allowing them to figure out what it is that they require to have that peaceful environment, not trying to do it for them.
So here's my kind of contribution to what you've said, because I think it's completely valid. Absolutely. There are definitely times when we can be doing the most. We can be doing all the right things, yet and still it's falling on deaf ears, yet and still the other person doesn't want to shift. So I hear that completely, and I think it's valid. I think that is real. I think, however, I think we need to focus on what we are doing regardless. And if we can then say, I've done X, Y, Z, then it's just like, okay, I don't even need to concern myself with what safety looks like for you, because you don't even know what that is. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I want to be mindful of, I don't want to give people almost like the caveat, the get out clause, to be like, well, you don't even know what it is for you anyway, so do you know what I mean? That's the only kind of thing that I want to kind of touch on with that, Rox, because I think that sometimes people see a loophole and they try to run with that. And no, do you know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like that's the latter part of the process. First of all, have I done the due diligence? Have I done the things? And if we have, then cool. But let's not act as if that latter part is the most important part. Do you get it?
No, 100%. So I completely like agree with what you're saying in regards to like, yeah, don't give people that like, oh, like I don't need to do all of these things because you haven't figured it out. My only thing is that the thing shouldn't be to be that for somebody. It should be to be emotionally aware of what you need to be, a peaceful human being for yourself, which will then create that anyway. Does that make sense? Like your focus can't be I'm trying to be that person's peace. It should be I'm trying to be a peaceful individual, and that means I do these things and I make this space energetically safe and nice and stable, and I'm aware of my emotions and the things that I do to contribute to a negative space. But I'm not trying to be that for you. I'm trying to be that for the space that we are both being cohesive.
Come on, girl.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's the only. I was triggered by the be his peace
Yeah.
because I'm like every day be his
Yeah.
peace. No, like
No,
yeah, but
that's a whole word. It's like and I love that. And I think, do you know what? For time, I know we could go on, yeah, but I'm being boundaried. Being boundaried, guys. We spoke about it well-being Wednesdays. I'm being boundaried, and the hour is the hour. But to that point, it's like I am aware of how I want to be. It's my way of being for myself. And if I can figure out what that way of being is for me, then naturally, by design, by the vibration that I'm emitting, I will attract other people who are on that same level and who can match me. And if you are that person, you will have the discernment to recognize when somebody comes into your space and you're like, this one here ain't no way. Then we're not there. And you can remove them. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like when you do that, naturally people start to fall away. But if we're not doing that work, if we're not in that space of creating and having those intentions for self, then we will fall victim to people who don't have our best interests at heart, people whose vibration is hella low, people who haven't done and not doing and not willing to do the work. And nobody wants that. So in summary then, I think ultimately, what the kind of general gist of the thing is that, as cliche as it sounds, I feel like we've come to the conclusion, it's a very real thing, that anything that we're experiencing starts with us. So when the gentlemen are saying this, that, and what they need, and I don't say that in a dismissive way, I think being able to respond to the needs of others, we first have to kind of look at those needs and be like, okay, if this person says that, like, listening is a thing, how often do I even listen to me? If this person says that commitment is a thing, how committed am I to myself? Am I the type of person who I will say I'm going to start a diet and then never do it? Am I the type of person who breaks commitments to me anyway? So it's like looking at what these other people are requesting and being like, okay, but how much of this am I doing for me first? Because if I'm not doing it over here, I can't do it over there. Do you know what I mean? Flipping heck. Dance a yard before you dance abroad. You know them ones, like get your own house sorted before you go to try and clean up a next man's yard. Let's not do that, guys. So, right. Before we close out, I'm just going to go quickly through to the panel. I want to say thank you to all for being here. Are there any closing statements that anybody would like to make? And then I will do a comments check, so I'll make sure that everything gets read out before we close, guys. Let's start with Empress Lee. Is there anything closing that you'd like to say?
Only that with accountability, no one else has to know about it. You don't have to shy away from it. You have to, prove something to other people. It's all about yourself. It's all shadow work, guys. It's so important.
Love that. Thank you, my darling. D Nice. Is she still here with us? I hope that she is.
Oh, sorry, I was trying to unmute the thing. Sorry. I think as well, you know what, you have to be yourself as well, because there's too many people trying to be what somebody else needs, and I think there's like a clash of conflict there, because somewhere somehow it's going to come out. It's not just about turning yourself into what someone else needs, because you might not be that.
Yes. So again, it's about
that's not fair either. That's not fair either of you. You understand?
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Thank you for that conversation.
You know when they say, sister, every one of them stick a bush? Right.
I'm just saying.
That one there, yeah. So you might not be you might not be the stick for that oar. So just like chill and go find your own oar, innit?
Find your own oar. I love it. Thank you so much, Dee. When an introvert, do you have a closing comment for us?
Not a comment, but just to say thank you for another great Civilized session.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to go through that in a minute. Rox, my darling, give us a final comment before we go.
I would say work on being emotionally aware. It's so important, and figure out what safety looks like to you, because it looks different to everybody, but it is so important in having a cohesive and well-rounded relationship, not just an intimate one, any relationship.
I love that. Okay, so on closing then, in fact,
And you're amazing.
Oh, thanks. You guys are amazing. I can only be as amazing as you guys are, and you guys have been sick and amazing. So thank you
I love when I come to the right side of TikTok. No mix up, no foolishness, just like real life shit. Yes, honey.
I love that I'm considered the right side of TikTok. I love this. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Jalita, for the gifts. Thank you everyone who's gifted. Thank you everyone who's joined the team. What else do I need to do for my things? Let's go through the comments because I did say I'll go through them, and I really can't stand when people don't go through comments. Putting the phone down, don't give neither opinion nor solution. Okay, fine. I got specific. Wazza, I'm sorry I couldn't get to you, my darling. Come back next week. We'll have a chit chat. Acknowledging and respecting the words and emotions coming through. Yes, precisely. Empress Lee's getting blessings. People are agreeing. Someone's saying facts. I love this. Thank you for sharing the live. Thank you for the gifts. ST again. Wazza, again, apologies that I couldn't get you up, my bro. I really do apologize. And then this is Rock saying you can't give people peace. Okay. What have we got here? Yeah, people should not have to outsource peace. Yes, absolutely. Good evening, Natalie and all the ladies. Hello, Simona. Shout you out. Shout out to the person who is that? I shouldn't say the person. That's very rude of me, but I can't read the name. But to the people who have followed, love you. Thank you so much. We attract who we are. Absolutely, we do. Let's get to 10K people. We did get to 10K. Thank you for that, Rox. We got to 10K. Amazing. Thank you so much. Set me free so I can roar Simba. Bro, I don't even know what you're even saying at this point. Amazing. What was this one? Again, thank you for the follows. Absolutely amazing session. Well done. Thank you so much. And we got 2 more, 100%. And we got Rose. And we got Blessed Night. Well done. Okay, so we got through the comments. Guys, thank you so much for being here. I want to say thank you to my panel. Again, thank you to everyone gifting who has gifted. This has been Civilized Sessions. We're here every Thursday night for this level of conversation. Apparently, we are on the right side of TikTok.
Yeah, so if you turn on my notification, yeah.
Thank you, my darling. Everyone who's in here right now, turn on your notifications because you want to be here. Every Thursday, you want to be in this space. Trust me. If you're not currently following, please follow. Feel free to share it as you're still here. Share the live so people are aware of who we are, even though we're ending. Share the profile. Let people know.
Can I add one thing that I discovered, please?
Go on, babes.
Right, so when I click on the live and it's got the list of people that I'm following, like that are alive, when I scroll right to the end at the end on the right hand side, it comes up with the event. So I encourage people to oh god, somebody jumped out my cupboard. I encourage people to go and click on it and link the event for next Thursdays, just to make sure that you don't forget. It links to your calendar. Trust me, it helps. Yeah, it's really good, and it shows you about all of Savage's stuff is on there because that's how I find out. So
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Amazing. I actually had it on my head. Remind people to register for the lives. So thank you because I'd forgotten it. So yes, guys, please register for the lives. Click for the notifications, and come back next week. I hope everybody's kind of felt that they've had value from this conversation. And whatever you do for the remainder of the evening. Yeah, we're done now, Julia. Whatever you do for the remainder of the evening.
One more time.
Thank you.
Big up. Yeah, I got some
don't stop.
today.
Girl, I'm just saying. And thank you, Winnie Introvert, for being the gentleman on the panel this evening. Appreciate you. Wazza, next time, I promise you. Right, guys, go eat your food. Whatever you're going to do, I'm saying eat your food like it's not almost 10 o'clock. Whatever you've got to do for the remainder of the evening, don't stop. Keep growing. Love. See you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye. Peace and love, everybody. Love and light. All that.